I'm 73, and this is my first novel. I've been a writer every day of my life for the last 70 years. I wrote poems, and I hid them in the bottom of a tissue box. So I wrote, and I wrote. Find a new path, find a new direction. Find the sunshine in everything.
This is the Promise of Possibility podcast, sharing stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things so you can be inspired to do so too. I'm Aruja Bohart. Now let's dive in. Leara, it is so good to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
It's lovely to have you. And, you know, I've been wanting to have you on the podcast for a while now, but this date is very special because the date that this podcast comes out, something really special is happening in your life. And for all of us who will absolutely enjoy the fruit of your labor.
I hope so.
Absolutely. But we're not going to talk about that yet. I have known you for over 30 years, and I'm dating myself, I know, but you're now retired.
And me.
Oh, well, no. You are now retired, but you were a professor at the University of Georgia for at least how many years did you work at the
30 years.
Wow. Wow. Well, I was studying in the College of Journalism and Mass Communications. I did my bachelor's and my master's there, and a few
Right.
more Caribbean students, or students from Curacao, to be specific. And you had a great love for the Caribbean students. Can you tell me where that came from?
Yes, I have always enjoyed the Caribbean. I lived in Trinidad for 3 years, working with the Trinidad Guardian as a consultant, and I worked in Haiti for some 20 years, off and on, going in and out. I had a Fulbright to Haiti. So there was, my daughter and I lived in Dominica when she was about 7 for the summer up in the rainforest.
Amazing.
So yeah, I do enjoy, and I've been to your island.
Yes, you have. You
In
were
fact, I sat at your parents' table
I know.
one night when you called.
This is true. This is true. Aw. And you, like, the Caribbean students flocked to you because we just, we felt the warmth, and we spent Thanksgivings at your house, and we babysat
That's right.
Jess, your daughter.
Yes, y'all did. Yes, you did.
We had fun.
There are
You
more
entrusted us.
stories there.
You entrusted us with her, and we had a blast. There are stories to be told.
And she has fond memories. Yes.
Lovely. But it's just to say, we go back such a long way, but your career started far before you were a professor at the University of Georgia. And we're going to talk about how that came full circle, because you initially, before you were an editor and a copywriter, you wanted to be a writer when you were younger, didn't you?
Since I was 9.
Wow.
Yes.
How
I
did
wrote poems.
Did you?
I did. And I hid them in the bottom of a tissue box so nobody would read them, because I didn't think anybody would go digging in the bottom of a tissue box. And we had a visiting minister. My father was a Baptist minister. We had a visiting minister, Dr. Roy Beeman, and I've written about him on my website because when he discovered that I liked to write poems, he said he did too. So would I share? And I did. And then he offered the most amazing thing. He said, well, I will read your poems and give you some hints and thoughts if you will read mine and give me some hints and thoughts. Now I was 9 years old.
Wow.
So he published my first poem in an anthology he had compiled. And we communicated all the way through my high school years until he retired from the seminary in New Orleans. And he was most amazing. I don't remember It's on my website, but it's something like he spoke 20 different languages. I mean, he was just a scholar out the gazoo. And here he
Wow.
was nurturing this 9-year-old girl to write. So I wrote, I
Um,
wrote, and I wrote.
That's
But I
that's an
couldn't make a
incredible
living. Yeah, I couldn't make a living, I felt, growing up in the South, writing poetry. And so then I decided I wanted to be a playwright. But then that was
Mhm.
short-lived because I knew I couldn't make a living. Right. So I settled, which has become my major love, on journalism in order to
Ah,
be able to write for a living and then teach writing, which has been my focus all my life.
brilliant. And
Yes.
when in your career did you move to Trinidad and were you a consultant there for the newspaper?
It was, right after my Fulbright in 1990. So it must have been 91, 92, somewhere around there. I think I moved, it might have been as late as 93 because I moved to Georgia from South Carolina in 94.
Okay.
So, and I still have good ties with Trinidad. The bureau chief for the San Fernando paper is still a very good friend of mine and is ordering
Mhm.
um, my book and, just doing amazing things in her retirement. So
Oh,
Hazel and I are
amazing.
still friends, and she's Irish.
Is she really?
Yes,
Full circle
her
again.
husband is
Oh,
Irish, Sean.
wow.
And they met. He went to Ireland for his medical degree. He's a doctor,
Yeah.
and met Hazel there, and she went back to Trinidad with him.
Oh
They
my
raised their
gosh.
children
Oh my
there.
god. That's another thing. I really wanna dive into your love for Ireland and of Ireland. But before I do that, so you started teaching at the university. Well, let's go back because okay, you worked as a journalist or as a consultant for the newspaper in Trinidad, and you worked as an editor. Is that correct? And a financial writer?
Right, yes, I
Right.
edited an alternative newspaper in Atlanta.
Okay. But there was this love for writing, and you had a big wish to write a book, a novel.
I did, and I took a novel to Breadloaf, in Vermont, and it
Okay.
was accepted as a contributor writer, and you have to really prepare to do that. They are very picky. So I worked for 2 or 3 years to get enough publications to be considered a writer instead of a viewer or,
Yeah.
occupant of a chair.
Yeah.
So my novel was a coming of age book, and it was well received by the panel of people that were critiquing things and giving you advice. But I was sick the whole time I was there,
Oh,
and when
wow.
I got home, I went to the doctor and discovered that I was pregnant with my daughter. And my pregnancy was not easy, and I
Mhm.
had a career to build. And so being a novelist was put on the back burner, and I went ahead with nonfiction writing for 30 years.
Wow.
But
And
I never
and
lost the dream.
ah. In the meantime, you got your PhD, and then you started teaching and,
Yes.
taught so many to become writers. I'm sure,
Yes.
there's fruits of your
Yes.
labor all over and instilled the love for writing. And I was lucky and blessed to be a guest in one of your courses, the summer writing course.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
I taught a summer at the University College Dublin
Yes.
in Dublin, Ireland, and invited you there. All my students loved you.
It
Yeah,
was
they were
it
so
was first of all,
smitten with your.
aw, thank you. It was such an honor to be there and, to be invited by you to teach your students and, just just lovely how you would come, you brought them to Ireland because these were students from the University of Georgia that came for
Right.
a summer writing course. So,
Right.
we're getting bits and pieces because there's this novel that's been in your heart, or writing a novel that is, that you almost did, and then you put it on the back burner. And then there's this love for Ireland, and there's a reason I'm mentioning these two because it will come together. But can you tell me about your love for Ireland? Because this is a big passion of yours.
Yes. Yes. My mother's side of the family are the Lynches from Ireland. And we
Okay.
had no stories other than what was passed down, and there were very few and far between. So I
Mhm.
started kind of looking at who were they? We had a couple of names and that they came into Virginia, but that's about all we had. And so I started looking, and I didn't want to write about my ancestors, but I wanted to understand who they were.
Right.
So I began visiting Ireland, and I've been 9 times. I've lived 4 summers in Ireland,
Wow.
two of which I was writing, and the other two I was teaching.
Right.
So and Ireland, the people in Ireland are the friendliest
Ah,
people in the world.
ah,
And I'm sure there are other friendly people in the world, but I gave an example. When I got back from Ireland, I wanted to park in a deck, a parking garage on campus. And the man there was very rude to me and said, "No, this is just, are you a parent?" And I said, "Well, yes, because I am a parent." But he meant for orientation for new students. And I kind of got that. I said, "Do you mean for orientation?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "No, no, I'm a faculty member here. I just need a parking
yeah.
space." "Well, this is only for parents of," and he just went off on a thing. And so I said, "Okay." And so then he, in a huff, he said, "Just go ahead, and park." And my likeness to Ireland would be that if I had been in Ireland and I said, "Hi,
Yeah.
I need a parking space," they said, "Oh, here, let me show you the nearest one." And they would walk in front of the car to point it out so that you wouldn't get lost and you would have the best
Parking
parking
spot.
space there.
That's
Yeah, right?
that is so true. I have lived in I've been blessed to live in a lot of countries, and of course, my people from Curacao, I love them and they're the kindest people, but I have to say I fell in love with the people from Ireland. Absolutely, hands
Yeah,
down, such kind people and just
yeah,
welcoming and loving and just always,
yeah,
there's always up for a crack, as they
yeah,
said. I hope I'm saying it right, a
yeah.
crack. Just always up for
Yes, yeah,
fun. And yeah, I
yeah,
just I fully agree.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. So I can understand that you fell in love with Ireland. I absolutely understand that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
If I could live there, if the weather was not as rainy and chilly for
Yeah.
my arthritis and my bad knees,
Yeah.
I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, the weather doesn't match the people,
No.
but it's
I
but
think
it's a
that's why
beautiful.
they shine. I think that's why they shine stronger, to
Yeah.
compensate. And so
Yes.
you overlook it. It's raining, and a man is holding an umbrella over my head, giving
I
me directions. I mean,
yeah.
they find the sunshine in everything.
Yes. The sun shines through them, and I have to say,
Yes,
I'm lucky
yes,
because I have a little Irishman. My youngest boy is
yeah,
was born in Ireland, so yeah,
yeah,
I have
yeah.
ties. I have ties. So so you put the novel on a back burner, but during your university years, you did write study books, didn't you?
Oh, I wrote 3 academic books,
Yes.
and tons of journal articles and papers, and because I taught magazine article writing, I would also write magazine articles, and I still
Right.
do. Lake Oconee Living magazine is very generous about letting me pitch an idea I want to write and let me write it.
Lovely.
And the editor is so kind. She takes like 2,000 words, and I'll write 3,000, and she won't cut it. She'll run the whole 3,000 word. So
Amazing.
I have this, and I just wrote one on the power of the rose. I was
Ooh.
enchanted. I went to the botanical gardens for a lecture on a rosarian, and I had never heard of a rosarian. What was a
What is a
rosarian?
rosarian?
So,
What is a rosarian?
someone who specializes in roses
Oh,
and
makes
grows
sense.
roses. A
Okay.
rosarian.
Okay.
But
Lovely.
I met this rosarian who gave this slide presentation on the smells and colors. And I mean, she brought roses alive, not just the fact that they're beautiful, but they're living, breathing, you
Uh-huh.
know, plants that
Ah,
have this energy. So I wanted to write this article on the power of the rose because I think roses have a lot of power.
mm,
When someone gives it, and I end it with the idea that when Renee Fleming is given roses at the end of one of her great operas,
yeah, yeah.
what's the first thing she does?
Ah,
She smells the
ah,
rose,
yeah, yeah.
and it's an honor to give someone roses for that sort of thing. So, and Tudor, changed, Henry VII changed with the Tudor rose. I mean, the Tudor rose doesn't exist except in drawings.
Right.
It's not a
Wow.
real Tudor rose.
Fascinating. That's
But the rose
fascinating.
is
I
so
love roses, but
powerful.
yeah,
Yeah, but the rose is so powerful that it can make two families come together in peace.
very true.
And a company spent big bucks sending it into space to get a special space sensation. And
Really?
Zen Products bought the fragrance and are putting it out as a
Wow.
space age fragrance. Yeah.
Wow.
It changed the whole nose quality of the rose. So,
That's
yeah.
super
So
interesting.
I kept writing. Yeah, I kept writing.
That's brilliant. And now we're coming to the highlight and the reason why today is so special and we get to actually release this podcast on, on publishing day, or is it, yeah, a release day actually.
Yes.
You have written
Right. Right.
you have written and have gotten a publishing deal for your novel Spancill Hill.
Correct. Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and that is, first of
I'm
all,
so excited.
I can absolutely imagine, and you are absolutely a true testament that i- it's never too late to turn back to your passion, and it's never too late
No.
to make your
No.
dreams come true. And
No. No.
there is age is just a number because you are rocking it. It's fabulous.
Well, I'm 73, and this
Amazing.
is my first novel.
Oh, I
And I'm
love
so
it. I get.
excited. The
Oh,
publisher is so excited. In fact, she's so excited that in the back of this novel, she put in that my next novel, The Darkest Midnight in December, is coming in the fall of
oh my,
2024. So I'll have two out this year.
that's unbelievable. 2 in 1 year. Oh, yay! Congratulations. Can you show us the cover of the book?
Sure.
Can you show us the book? Oh, it's beautiful. Spancil, it's beautiful. Oh,
Notice the shamrock at the top
I noticed the shamrock. So and I want to
and
dive
their
into
little
it because
horseshoes.
yes, it's set in Ireland.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about
Well, it moves to New York.
Okay.
He starts in Ireland
Yeah.
and he moves to New York.
So what can you tell us about, obviously you're not going to give it away, but what can you tell us about this story?
Well, the protagonist, Cahey, is a young man with little education,
Mhm.
knows the Irish and the English languages, uh, but has these survival skills that my papa had as an Irishman. You know, he came with very little education,
Yeah.
and with his just critical thinking skills and survival skills, he became a fairly wealthy man with apartments and trailer courts and a strip shopping center, a grocery store, a service station. And he died at 45. He did that all in like 20, 25 years.
Wow.
So I find those traits of
Mhm.
people being able to accomplish a great deal amazing. And
Yeah.
so that's Cahey. He works for a distillery, but then gets an opportunity to go to New York, and he becomes one of the most sought after horse trainers at the Vanderbilt American Horse Exchange in Manhattan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ah, lovely.
But it's a story of immigrants and
Yeah.
bonding and the love of Ireland. He never loses his love of Ireland and his political background to keep writing about Ireland and why the why Ireland is important, and
Yeah.
um, he never loses that.
Beautiful. Ah, beautiful. And did you write it in Ireland? Because you said 2 of the summers that you lived in Ireland, you wrote.
Yes. I lived in the Barrow Peninsula for
Mhm.
a time, and then I lived in a village called Levain, which I use in the book. It's outside of
Oh,
Gort, outside of Galway,
yes.
but a little village, and I wrote there. I rented an Airbnb, and the cows were in the pasture next door, and they would come up
Ah.
close to the window and look at me, and I would greet them and say hello. And there was one particular cow that always came over to the fence and looked at me with her little sad face, you know. And
No.
when I was leaving, I went over to the fence to say bye to them, and they wouldn't come to the fence. So I got in my car and I was driving down the driveway, and I paused and looked, and I heard her moo, cry out. to me.
Aw, she
So
didn't
I
want you
felt
to
like
leave. That's why
I
she
had
didn't come to the
bonded
fence.
with this cow over the summer. You know?
Oh,
We were friends.
that's lovely.
Yes.
I love how you went to Ireland and were there to write the novel that started off in Ireland. Is that important? I mean, it's so it's wonderful to get 2 perspectives. We get a perspective of you as the author of this beautiful novel that I can't wait to read. But we also get the perspective of somebody who has taught writing for such a long time, right? So you have both sides of the trade, if we can call it that. Is it important, or was it for you, was it important? Did it inspire you to be in the surroundings of the place that you were writing
Mm.
about? Did that how did that
I
work?
had to hear. I had to hear the Irish. I had to feel how they reacted to things, you know. For example, the very first day I was in Gort, it was raining, of course, raining. I'm in a rental car driving on the left side of the road, and haven't driven on the left side of the road since leaving Trinidad years earlier. So it was a new experience for me. Well, I hit something and didn't know what it was. So I moved over to the side of the road, and this man ran up like crazy. I had hit the mirror of his truck and tore it off his truck. So we shared insurance and all. But the first question he asked me was, now I damaged his truck, right? The first question he asked me was, "Are you okay?"
Oh, it's so special.
Yeah. And we became Facebook friends. Yeah, he was a working man, in construction and needed his truck, but he was just, I mean, and I had to hear that. I had to experience what an Irishman would do in a conflict, and I had to hear the rain, and I had to see the flowers, and I had to smell things, and I had to eat the food and listen to the music, um, and all of that is in the book. All of it. Yeah.
Amazing. So there's one thing is doing the research, right? I mean, you would research what you're going to write about just to get context, but a whole other thing is the experiential side of things to really live it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the research is the journalism part. I mean, I really checked the facts. And one of the things I shared earlier was that there was a boat, a ship that left Galway at a certain date and went to Boston. That's exactly the date I use in the description of the ship that I use in the book. And on that ship, there was a Scottish man who was a photographer, and he becomes Frederick, my protagonist's best friend. So, I mean, the details of how do you transport a horse on a ship in 1895? I researched all of it, even to how much the horses ate. And how much water they had to drink and have on board the ship in order to make the horses comfortable. So if you read the book, you will get the characters are fiction, the story is fiction, but the setting and what was happening in Ireland and what was happening in New York was all heavily researched.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Have you ever lived
And
in
I
New
love
York?
that.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Have you ever lived in New York?
I have not, other than visiting it many, 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 many times. I lived in the museum. They have a City of New York museum, and I went for a week, and I don't think I left the museum except to go home and sleep or go back to the hotel and sleep. But that's where I got all the maps and where things were in 1896 to 1904. What was happening in New York, the newspapers. But the locations of things I saw from these maps from the New York City Museum. And I interviewed people. I met the most amazing man. His name was Tom Nealon, and he was an older man who grew up in Ireland. He lived outside of Gort, farm man. And I interviewed him because I found out that he had traded horses back in the day. And I wanted to know how you bought a horse at a fair like Spancill Hill, which was a horse fair. How does an Irish person buy a horse there? That's not online. And he was so helpful and explained it, and it's in the book. The things he told me about. If the horse trader is legitimate, he'll give you 8 feet of rope or 8 yards of rope, something like that. I can't remember feet or yards now, and some coins. because the coins will indicate that he is honest. And so I do that. I describe that in the book, and I have this wonderful basket. And part of what I learned from Tom was that attitude the Irish have of doing what they can do, whatever it is. He had made a basket. I have it sitting on my piano in the living room. This basket is made out of real coarse reeds. It's only about this deep and round like this. And we're looking at this basket. And he said, well, this is the only basket you made. I said, well, why did you make this basket? And he said, well, someone offered to teach me how to make a basket. And when someone offers to teach you something for free, you accept. And I just love that attitude of, so he made this basket and then he gave it to me. And I said, you don't want to give away your only basket. He said, well, you like the basket? I said, yes, I do. And he says, well, it's yours. And the generosity, the not holding on to things necessarily, it was a spirit I wanted to capture. And he had embodied it, So living in a place that you're writing about, I think, is just incredibly important. And that's why I once met a woman here who was teaching African or Caribbean dancing, Haitian dancing. Well, you know how many years I worked in Haiti. And so I said, well, when were you in Haiti? Never. I said, well, who did you study with that was Haitian? She didn't. And I said, then you can't call yourself a Haitian dance teacher,
That's
So
true.
she went to
And
Haiti
you
with
told
me.
her that.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
I think it's important.
That's
I think that people who write about things and think they understand it because they've seen a picture or a
mm,
movie or someone told them about it. It's not the same thing. Cultures are so rich, um,
absolutely.
and there's so many examples. I can give you another one. At a lunch counter at a jazz music for Sunday in Dublin, Ireland, I had gotten my lunch on the tray and came and sat down to listen to the music and discovered that I did not have the little rolled silverware that you're supposed to pick up when you pick up your tray. I didn't pick it up. So I'm standing up to
Yes.
go and get it. And the woman next to me, behind me on the table, said, you're new to Dublin. And I said, yes, I am. And she said, can I help you with anything? I said, oh, no. I forgot my silverware. So I'm just going to go and get it. And she said, oh, I'll get it. And she pops up and she ran and
Ah.
got the silverware and came back. I mean, that's culture.
Ah.
That's,
Yes.
and I can't make that stuff up. I can't
No.
dream of what that will be if I don't experience it.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah, and it's just and I think that's why, in journalism even or in writing or in like in research, that's why there's desk research and field research, right? I mean,
Yes,
so you
yes,
can get
yes.
the whole experience.
Yes, yes, it needs to have
Right.
both.
Yes,
I agree.
absolutely, absolutely. And I cannot wait to read Spancill Hill. And I don't want to move away from Spancill Hill because that's we're all so excited to read it. But I just want to ask, your novel that's coming out in August, and I'm so excited that you have a second
No,
one coming
October.
out this year
Yes.
in October. In October, is it also based in Ireland?
No, it's based in Savannah, but it's the Irish in Savannah.
Ooh. Oh, I love how
I
that combines. Still, you have the Irish in there, and then and
it,
Savannah is so beautiful,
it
Savannah, Georgia.
well, I'm stealing the idea from a Irish writer who would write a book and then she would take a character and write a new book. And so I'm doing that.
Oh,
The accountant for Cahey in New York becomes the major character in The Darkest Midnight in December. And she
wow.
is in love with Cahey and knows that he's not going to marry her. So she gets this opportunity to further her career. And the whole point of the book is one of what women's careers were like in 1906, especially in the South. So she's Irish
Fascinating.
and she joins an Irish company and she lives in a boarding house with nurses who are training at the hospital run by the Sisters of Mercy, who created. And this whole book, it's funny how it started. I had learned about a nursing group in Savannah that were Irish women. Um, Usually from impoverished families, but they came together in a new. The Sisters of Mercy did an apprenticeship program with them rather than the Nightingale
Okay.
School of where they had to pay tuition and take classes and work for 2 or 3 years. They worked in the hospital and learned as they went. They had some
Okay.
classes, but it was an apprenticeship program essentially, and they lived in a boarding house. But I couldn't find anything about them other than during World War One, they became one of the stellar nursing groups in the European conflict of being able to take care of our soldiers. So I was
Wow.
fascinated over this. I wasn't really
Yeah.
gung ho about getting heavily into medical because of all the research that would take. But
Yes.
yes. So I've included them. She is my protagonist. Sharon is living in a boarding house with these Irish nurses in training across from St. Joseph's Hospital. So she learns about the nursing program without having to get into the nitty gritty. But it is about
Fantastic.
it is about women's careers and what they could do and what they couldn't do. She was limited and
That's really
underpaid,
interesting.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
That's
a
very
hopeful
interesting.
book.
That's oh,
Even though the title sounds dark, it is based on a
yeah.
Wexford carol. And the carols are usually
Oh,
named by the first line. And the first line in that carol is in the darkest midnight of December. And the carol is about
no.
if a baby, Jesus, is born on the darkest midnight in December and offers hope to the people who believe in that,
Yes.
then there's
Yes.
hope for us. And one of the men
Oh,
in the book is from Wexford County, and he really believes that to be true and wants to get back in time for Christmas because the Wexford carols were only sung during the Christmas holidays by 6 men
yeah.
uh, in the church there in County Wexford.
Amazing. Ah, it's such a rich story already, even without having read a word. Just I can now I'm excited about Spancill Hill and I'm excited about A Darkest Midnight in December. The darkest is that it?
Yes,
Darkest
the
Midnight in
darkest
December?
midnight in December. But I'm writing
Ah, just
the
lovely. And
the second one is finished, so I'm actually writing a third one called, and
incredible.
I'm so excited about it, and I think you will be excited because it has to do with music. One of the characters, her
Ah,
friend in the boarding house is Gertrude, and Gertrude wants to be a classical pianist, but she's limited. So the
right.
story is one that develops on she goes to Dublin and Croagh and back to Wexford and then back to Savannah, and then she winds up spending the winter, and I won't tell you why, on Tybee
Mhm.
Island off the coast of or Georgia, there at Savannah. And
Yeah.
in that winter time where she's alone taking care of this house, she writes a rhapsody. And as
Wow.
I'm interviewing a woman piano composer who lives in Atlanta, Pam Asbury, as we're talking, she says to me, I could write a rhapsody for your book. So we're
Oh my
writing music to
goodness.
go with the book.
Oh. Oh, that is I can just envision how the multimedia, launch of this
Yes,
book slash
yes.
rhapsody, that is extraordinary.
I'm so excited.
Just love it. Just love it. Lyra, you have always been an inspiration and you are to me family. But to
Aw.
see and like I've said, you've always been an inspiration. I've always felt you to be a renaissance woman in everything you do and just
Aw,
living
thank you.
the grandest version of your life and to see you blossom in even greater ways and to now at 7 I really the reason I am doing this podcast is because I'm so passionate about showing not just women but especially women that life isn't over just
No.
because you age seems to go start creeping up or because you chose a different path than you intended to or that you were passionate about because of life. It doesn't mean that you can't come back to your passion. And surely, I mean, of course you still practice your passion in teaching, writing, and you still wrote,
Mm.
but to see it come around in such a beautiful way, you are absolutely a testament that, you can come
God,
back to
thank you.
anything you want to do at any age. And that is I just can't wait to see what else, life has in store for you and what else you will be offering us.
But I have to say, I have not done this by myself. If it wasn't for
Ah,
Lee Eberwein, my publisher at Old Fort Press, who saw
yeah,
something and we came together and we're collaborating and she believes in my work, um,
beautiful.
I would still be not published. Um,
Yeah.
and my daughter, Jessica, has been an amazing supporter all her
Yeah.
life of my work.
Yes.
And
Yes.
my some sister friends and friends like you. I have another student in New York who researched all the Irish reading clubs in the Northeast so that they
Oh
can
wow.
learn about my book. I mean,
Oh, that's
I have these
amazing.
amazing
That's
people,
amazing.
that
Yeah.
people are what make the world. And that's part of the
That's very
story I
true.
want to tell about Cahey,
Yeah.
that his
Yeah.
world was not, may have been limited by the problems and the frustrations he had in Ireland, but it wasn't limited by his developing of friendships and finding his own path.
Oh, beautiful. I can't wait. It's just hearing about it. I can't wait to read it and we'll put everything in the description so people can go out because it is out today when this podcast comes out. And so they can go out
Yes.
and find it. Yes, I can't wait. And I hope that there will be a way that you can get to do readings and book presentations in Ireland because that would be so fitting.
I know that we. Well, I'm going to Ireland in September, and I've
Yes.
got to.
Yes.
I've got to do some more research on County Wexford and Dublin because I wasn't expecting the kind of things I was writing in the third book to come up when I was there before. So I have
Yes,
to
of
go
course.
back.
I
Yes.
love
I
that. I
notice
love
I
that.
have to go back.
Yes, of course, you have to. There's no choice. Your characters are leading you to it.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
Lyra, again, I love you from the bottom of my heart. You are such an inspiration. And I, and I hope that you at home that are watching or listening to this podcast will be inspired to not limit yourself by circumstances or by
Yeah.
what time may bring or what life brings, because if you really want it and if you work for it and if you have the right people will come in your life if you put it out there. Lyra, is there any message that you would like to share with anybody listening, especially having said that our audience is most likely somebody who wants to achieve something but might not believe that it's still possible?
There are all sorts of bumps in life, and it doesn't matter what you do, but if you let them stop you, um, you won't succeed. Um, Find a new path, find a new direction. I once, when I was just out of college, when it needed a writing job, there were no writing jobs available. There was a recession. So I created a job uh, because I wanted to stay focused. I wanted to be able to say, I've been a writer most every day of my life for the last,
Oh,
since nine from 73, what's over 70 years. Um,
yeah.
and that's, I think, important. Just stay focused, but it doesn't always have to be an easy path or
Right.
a direct path, but it can be
Right.
a focused path.
That's beautiful. And yes, you're right. It doesn't have to be a direct path. I think the
Yeah.
winding roads, if you can imagine an aerial view, the winding
Uh,
paths are the most beautiful ones. And
yes, yes.
but you're absolutely right. Stay focused. It doesn't have to be straight to just stay focused. Thank you. I think those are the most beautiful words to end with. And again, I am so
Uh,
honored and so grateful that you came on the podcast. And I
oh,
cannot wait to read Spancill Hill. So
thank you, thank
happy.
you. You know how much I love you. Thank you very much.
I love you so much.